Welcome. I'm excited to share with you today how I mount my pastel paper. And for many years, I did not mount my pieces. And what I found was challenging was photographing them, framing them, and handling them was a lot more difficult when they're unframed, especially if you buy your paper on a roll and it curves. I try to flatten it out the most as I can, but when I'm sending this off to a customer that's bought a piece, it's just a lot easier to handle a piece that's mounted. I don't have any warping. I can hold it. It can be framed easier with spacers instead of doing a double reverse mat. You can just pop this into a frame with these spacers, and so it doesn't touch the glass, and that is a great option. And it photographs well. It stores a lot easier. You're not going to have any curling, and so if you can do it, I think it's a great option to mount your pieces. I do all mine my own in my studio. It's pretty simple, basic, and I'm excited to get started and share that with you today. So this is a piece of UART 600 grade pastel paper. You could do this with any paper. It doesn't really matter. The same process would work no matter what. I have some mat board, Crescent mat board. This is just a double-sided one that's cream on one side and white on the other. I think it's 7 mil. I'll look that up and have it in the supply list below. But I just get that from Blick, and I buy it in huge sheets and I cut it down with a mat cutter. But you could cut it down with an X-Acto knife. That works too, or buy it in smaller sheets. And then this is the jewel. This is a double-sided adhesive called Grafix. And it is acid-free. It's meant to be used for mounting. This is what the frame shops use. It's used by so many different things. Photographers will use it on their backers for their prints to mount them before they get framed. Framers use this all the time. Artists use it all the time. And what I do is I cut out, if I know I'm going to work with a 9x12, I will cut out the mat board to be the exact size I want it. So this is exactly a 9x12. Then I will want my pastel paper to be just a little bit over. And this one's pretty tight, but sometimes I'll do a little bit over. So you want some edge there where, I'll just bump one edge up. I've learned to do that pretty straight, and then I'll just cut the 3 edges. That's fine too. But you want to be able to do a flush cut on the paper in the end. So then this paper, the Grafix needs to be bigger than the mat board. And we're always going to put the Grafix onto the mat board first, not the paper. The paper gets done last. And you'll see here, I have a little cut board. I have a huge mat over on my shipping station, but for video purposing, this is a better area. I'm going to bring that back in after I get it mounted here. So I take the double Grafix, and you just got to get one edge to give. And what happens is when you peel this off, one side will be curly and one will be flat. So this has the backer on it still, that's pretty flat, and this will curl up, and that's done. So we're not going to use that anymore. So now we have our sticky all ready, and a lot of times I'll go with the longest edge first, and I'll line this up. I'm just holding my fingers down to touch like this because that comes up pretty easy, see? And I use that to balance out. And I'm just going to take this and then drop it down. And then I'm going to rub that really good. Make sure I don't have any crazy air bubbles on this side. Have a few there. And now I'm going to take and trim that out. So the mat board's already an edge, so I don't have to use a ruler. I have a fresh X-Acto knife. I always use a fresh knife. I would say that's probably the most important thing on doing any of this mounting. Don't do it with an old knife. It's just not worth it. So I'm going to go in and use that as a guide. Try not to cut into the mat board. And then I'm just going to twist this around. Of course, when I'm videoing. And then we just pull up, take off that waste, ball it up because I do not want it to get on my art. That is the worst thing. And I make sure I keep it far away from anything that it could stick on. And now we've got that on there and it's all ready. And sometimes I'll use a brayer and roll that down, but it's fine for today. It looks pretty sealed on there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get that edge carefully. And now we got that stickiness there. And that comes off really curly. And then we're going to take this paper, put it down on its long edge. And I will line up, if the edge is straight, I will line up one of those edges with a straight edge, because I've had to do some tight fits before with actual pieces. So I'm not going to have to cut that one. Because it is, the sanded paper is hard on the cutting tools. We got our paper mounted. I'm going to go on the back end, because we don't want to go on the sanded paper. I'm going to brayer it. And you can just use your hands. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's pretty adhesive. It does a great job. So now you have this edge where I got one that's bare, I don't need to cut that. And I'm going to take this and cut off the rest. And then that's going to give me a perfect 9 by 12. Now this can sometimes start slipping because I have to go over it twice sometimes, because sanded paper can be a little bit tricky. So I got a little spot there I missed. I'll rotate that around. And now you have a mounted pastel paper. I would usually do a set of these and have them ready. And then I just tape up the top and the bottom on my easel. And that makes it to where I'm really easy and ready to go. The edges, so when you go to frame these, they don't necessarily go into just a standard like Michael's craft store frame as easy, because they are thicker. So I always am working with where I'm sending people to framers. So they're going to take that original and they're going to take it and go get it framed. And I frame a lot of my own pieces too using spacers. Now, if you want to go into a store like bought frame and just do like a double reverse mat, which I'm going to show in a video, that you just keep your paper pastel on the paper. You don't mount it, and then it'll fit into almost any frame with just a little bit of altering. So this is a great way to make things a lot easier, because I can put it flat, I can photograph it, I can have it on the easel without warping. I don't need to use as much tape. So I hope this was helpful. And thank you very much for joining me here today.